Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to episode number 20 of our WWE 2021 Save and TEW 2020. This is Raw, and we have made it to week 4 in July, which of course means that we have our pay-per-view coming up, which is going to be the Great American Bash, a SmackDown branded show, but we have a Raw and a SmackDown to get to before we get there. A lot going on this edition of Raw, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We do start with a pre-show match with Angel Garza and Chad Gable getting the win over Akira Tozawa and Mansoor, 39. As you know, we don't really care about the rating right now. We're just kind of giving these guys something to do. But good to see Gable leads the way in terms of, or actually it was Garza, sorry, leading the way in terms of in-ring performance. So that's good to know. As I've said before, we have some plans for Garza in the future. But right now, in a holding pattern a bit. Gable's been teaming off and on with Benjamin and losing matches, basically. Same for Tozawa and Mansoor. They've just kind of been on the, I don't want to call them jobbers. They're not jobbers, but they have been on the losing side of things. Let's put it in a nicer way like that. So pre-show match, Garza, Gable get the win. Not really much else to it. And then in our other pre-show match, it's John Morrison getting the win over Drew Gulak. Goes about 7 minutes. Starship Pain, 59 overall. Morrison, someone that I do have some plans for actually in the pretty immediate future. But we just didn't really have anything for him on the show. But wanted to get him a little work in nonetheless. And so this is just that, getting him a victory here in a nice little match of 59 on the pre-show. And that's going to lead us into the main show, which starts off with a pretty significant return, even though, as I'm going to tell you in a second, it wasn't originally scheduled that way, but it is a big return, and it's kind of going to build into the storyline we have going on, and we found a way around what we actually had to work with, but it is a big return, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. It is the return of the injured Rhea Ripley. This gets a 70. Would have liked it to be a little bit better overall here. But this is Bayley and Sasha coming out. Want to know who the mystery opponent is going to be for Carmella. As you remember last week, we announced that Austin announced that this week it would be Carmella versus a mystery opponent, with the winner going on to face Bayley and Sasha Banks in a triple threat match. However, they want to know their opponent for SummerSlam, so they can start preparing. Crowd erupts. Rhea Ripley's back after her injury. We'll call her surgery for a torn Achilles. She's still out a long time. Guys, remember that. And Bayley and Sasha are shocked as she walks onto the stage, apparently thinking that Rhea is their opponent and wanting to know how she got healed that quickly. Rhea reminds them, hey, don't worry, she's not the opponent. But she does know that the opponent is someone that can beat both of their asses at the same time, and that she decided, the opponent, that she wants to keep you waiting another week, and she'll be here and be the next Raw Women's Champion. So this sets up, kind of keeping Bayley and Sasha Banks in limbo a bit, wanting to know, thinking they were going to find out this week, and they're not going to find out this week. It's actually going to be the next week now that we're going to have that match. And just so you know, I said that we were going to do a sort of a similar thing like this. We were going to have Rhea come back and kind of put her into the mix in a different way. But I had to do this because actually a little bit of a technical issue on my part for not having the opponent actually ready to go. And I'll joke about what that means actually once she debuts. But there was just a technical thing that kind of held her back, and she was not available to be able to be on the show. So I had to work around it, and this is how we worked around it. So I think it turned out fine. It's still something that I think plays into the story. And like I said, we were going to go this route anyways eventually before SummerSlam actually, so it works out fine. We just delay the match another week. So I don't like putting matches out there and not coming through with them. I don't want to give you bad advertising, but we had to do that on this one. So a pretty good segment here, having Rhea come back and tease and hype what Bayley and Sasha Banks could be in for with this mystery opponent. And we have a match here, which is actually going to be a Money in the Bank qualifier. We know Edge has already qualified. It's Sheamus qualifying 57 here as Sheamus returns, his first match since losing the U.S. title to Kevin Owens. And Sheamus does defeat Dominic Dijak there to get the win with a bro kick. Sheamus off his game, not really, I know if you're looking at this, you're like, well, he's probably not, Dijak's not qualifying for the Money in the Bank. It's Sheamus, probably a pretty easy, predictable match, but that's fine. We wanted to get Sheamus in there, and this was the best way to do it. This was as I looked up and down the card, I was like, this is really the only person that I have for him to beat right now based on everything else that we're doing. So not ideal overall, but it's fine. It's a means to an end here just to get Sheamus in the match. So it works out fine. So Sheamus the second person to qualify for the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match that we're going to have at SummerSlam. So Sheamus is back, and he is in the big match for the Money in the Bank briefcase. And let's see, what do we want to address here? Let's see what we need to do. Oh, yeah, we have a gimmick change here for Dijak, Silent Assassin gimmick. Let's just do it. Very good. Well, that's good to know. So, good for him. Anyways, on to the next part. Same, a 57 here. It's the Street Profits. Montez Ford frustrated. As you remember, he was pinned by Bobby Lashley last week in the six-man main event. Dawkins wants him to calm down and tell him that, Ford will eventually be WWE champion someday, but right now they got to focus on the Dirty Dogs in their match tonight. Ford replies that, hey, man, it's eating at him, and he was this close to pinning the champion. Once he comes that close, it stays with you, but he is going to turn his focus to the Dirty Dogs tonight. So as I teased it last week, but we kind of have something, you'll know pretty soon what we're working towards here, but we kind of have something in the works here with Montez Ford, and this is kind of the second little wrinkle and angle we've used to push that forward. I would have loved this to be a bit higher, but we've just got to, these guys' overness is not where it needs to be just yet. So that's the only issue probably with the 57 rating. So it's okay, though. We're building towards something, and we'll see if it works out. Then we get to Carmella, who was, again, supposed to have that match against the mystery opponent. We put her in a match anyways. She defeats Mandy Rose, 635, gets a 48. Not a great rating, and I'll just go ahead and tell you, like I said on the last SmackDown, I don't think this is going to be a very highly rated Raw because we're kind of back in that building phase where we have to build a couple things up, and I think the ratings, just aren't going to be perfect. But this was just giving Carmella a match, and she was supposed to have one anyways. So we give her the match. She builds a little momentum heading into that match on next week's Raw with the mystery opponent. And then a great segment here, and this gives us a big development. A 79, Steve Austin, AJ Styles enters Austin's office, and Austin thanks him for coming in. And Austin says that, he heard AJ talk about how he still got it and bragging and all this other stuff. And Austin came up with an idea that'll not only be good for Styles, but for the Raw brand. And since Styles keeps running his mouth about how he's the best, he's going to give him a chance to prove it at SummerSlam. It will be AJ Styles going one-on-one with one of Raw's biggest rising stars, Big E. So there's a match that we have set for SummerSlam. We already know we've got our championship match, but now we're going to have AJ Styles versus Big E because Austin, we've been building Big E up, building him up, and that's why we kind of played up this AJ thing the past couple weeks with him saying that he wants to prove he still got it. So now he gets sort of a fresh challenger, a fresh feud here with these two, and we've got a month to build it up before SummerSlam. So pretty happy with this and very curious to see how things unfold there with that match with Big E and AJ Styles at SummerSlam. And then we have another Money in the Bank qualifying match, as it is Ricochet qualifying for the match. Good match here, 62 overall. We see we have great chemistry between these two. Ricochet has his hot new move, so that's helpful. And really just, this was, I don't want to say it exceeded expectations, but it did pretty well here. But Ricochet joins the group, so he has joined Edge and Sheamus in the Money in the Bank ladder match for Raw at SummerSlam. So Ricochet, a nice win here, even though Shelton actually had a better performance. It's Ricochet getting the win, and as we've talked about before, and many of you have commented on, for whatever reason, people don't like Ricochet backstage. It's Triple H and Austin have both just thrown this guy under the bus in emails that I've been sent as the booker of WWE. But nonetheless, we are booking Ricochet into another kind of big spot. He was in King of the Ring. Now we're booking him into the Money in the Bank match for Raw. So hopefully they don't get too angry because it seems like Ricochet not making too many friends backstage when it comes to Austin and Triple H. So the two-man power trip. It's just does not like this guy for some reason. But Ricochet, Money in the Bank, he's in. And then we get the usual Kevin Owens U.S. title open challenge. 76 here. Owens has just delivered again and again and again. I just keep saying it at this point. Owens comes down. He's already beaten the Dirty Dogs. He beat Ziggler and Rude now in consecutive weeks in his first two U.S. title open challenge defenses. Now he's ready for his next opponent. Who's going to step up? And it's going to be a blast from the past. This is why I like this, TEW and kind of the setup and how you can do different things because I think it gives you some fun opportunities. And this is going to be one in particular I think that's kind of fun to do. So we get a little blast from the past here with someone who's going to answer the U.S. title open challenge for Kevin Owens. It's Rob Van Dam. RVD comes out. His music hits. Out comes the former WWE and ECW champion. Who's going to face him? Rob Van Dam. So this, not a great rating overall. And honestly, I'm guessing the match probably isn't going to be great either. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to do. It's someone different, and this is what you can do with the open challenge. It doesn't have to necessarily just be someone on the roster. It can just be someone, kind of a different. And the reason we had Van Dam here is we did a one-shot deal with Rob Van Dam, which is kind of funny. We do that with him, and because we were located, we did the show in the Southwest, so it had us, he was one of the local workers that was available. So we signed RVD to a one-night deal, and, this just kind of sets that up. So let's see how the match turns out. Gimmick changes, I don't really think we're worried about that, even though, because again, we only signed RVD to a one-night deal. So let's see. No, we don't want to care about that. 65, so not terrible. I mean, it's okay match. Evan Owens was definitely better in terms of the in-ring performance, but still, we wanted to give it a shot. I think it was fun to do. So this kind of, it opens up. It makes it a little more unpredictable in terms of how we do this U.S. title open challenge, and I think you'll see along the way we've got some pretty fun matchups that are just, I think, going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, so a good match here, solid. And Owens defends the title for the third time. So this Kevin Owens open title challenge has actually worked out pretty well, even though the previous two matches were better than this one. But we bring RVD back, and a one-shot deal for RVD. But Owens still the champ, and we'll see what's in store next week in the U.S. title open challenge. And then a fantastic promo here, as is usual, from Edge. Gets an 88. Edge, all the great stuff here. Our announcers just can't keep up. Edge backstage, he is now qualified for Money in the Bank ladder match for the Raw edition at SummerSlam, and he's going to do everything he can to make sure he's ready for his opponents. And then basically Edge goes back into talking about what he's talked about in recent weeks. He doesn't know who his opponents are going to be just yet, all of them. But what he does know is they're probably going to have more opportunities down the road at a title, not him. This is his last chance, and he will do whatever it takes to become the WWE champion once again. So Edge, still determined, still focused, wants to find his way back to wearing the WWE gold, and he is going to have his opportunity now in Money in the Bank, and we'll see where things go from there. But another great promo from Edge, just terrific work, and he has just done that thus far all the way. So Edge is ready, and he's going to do whatever he needs to do to become the champion. And that leads into, speaking of the Dirty Dogs and the Street Profits, a little tag team match here as the Street Profits get the win. 61 overall, fine. Everyone kind of in the same range when it comes to overness and all that stuff, and really with the in-ring performances, we see that here as well. So this is, again, you're going to see this is sort of a means to an end. This is to achieve an objective with this, and the Street Profits get the win. So Dirty Dogs just don't have a lot of momentum right now, but I've just had to put them in some of these spots to lose just because we don't really have a lot of others to choose from right now. So that's just kind of where they've been slotted. But as you'll see, we're not done with a couple of these just yet. A 53, not great for this segment, but after the match, we have the Street Profits in the ring. Their hands are raised, and Ziggler shoves Ford's arm as he goes to check on Rude. Ford's smile turns around. He's not so happy anymore as Ziggler starts running his mouth. Ford with a big right to Ziggler, and that starts a brawl between the two. Rude pulls Ziggler out to stop the things, and then adding a little commentary bit here where we have Corey Graves kind of hyping up this aggressive side we've been seeing from Montez Ford, and wondering what is going on with him. So that's kind of a tease, and you'll see how it plays out next week's edition of Raw. But this is something that we've been building towards for a couple weeks now. But you'll see sort of I don't want to say it's the ultimate destination next week, but it'll be kind of a big development in what we're doing here with this whole situation. So not a great rating, but like I said, I'm okay with that right now. And then it is Stone Cold announcing that next week we will see the return of Rey Mysterio to Raw. Mysterio has been out now for a month, and I had to look up, and I was realizing, wow, it actually has been a month. I feel like this, but then I remember, I'm like, we've only booked, I guess, 4 Raw shows since then, so it's like we're booking 2 different shows, so it feels like, just kind of the time-wise, but Rey Mysterio is going to be back next week, and of course, we remember the last time we saw him, he was getting a beatdown from Randy Orton. And so we'll see what the deal is with Mysterio. But he is going to be back next week. He's been out a little while. And as we know, too, Dominic was also laid out. We haven't seen him for a couple weeks. So we'll see what's in store, but Rey Mysterio will be back next week. That's a little teaser to come for what could, what we could see from him. So, and then our main event, not a great rating either, 68 overall, as it is Daniel Bryan defeating MVP in 10 minutes or so. This was the main event we set up last week, and didn't really know, rating-wise what we get. My guess is, when you look at it, we probably got penalized. MVP, I'm guessing, stamina-wise, maybe. Well, not stamina. I guess it's just sort of the decline, as we see with some of the others. We've seen that with Nakamura and some others in this save. But still, I think it's fine. This is, again, as you're going to see, this is sort of something to set up something else. But we wanted to do this match because I think it was just it's one you can go to in a build to Bryan versus Lashley. So Bryan gets the win. And the bigger thing is what's going to come out of this, which is great segment here, 86. As Bryan celebrating his win, Lashley comes in, hits the ring, and hits Bryan with the title belt. Bryan's bleeding from his forehead. Lashley grabs the mic, and he's finally going to tell us. He just kind of left it out there when he first issued the challenge, but he finally tells us that the reason why he challenged Daniel Bryan for SummerSlam, not the other way around, because Lashley's the champion, is because he's tired of his WWE title reign not being treated with the same respect Bryan's was when he won the title in 2014. Of course, that was the big WrestleMania 30 stuff and all that. And that he tells Bryan it's no longer 2014, it's 2021, and it's his time. And when he beats him at SummerSlam, he's finally going to get the respect he deserves. So a big promo from Bobby Lashley to build up this feud. And look, we're just gaining heat. We've continued to gain heat with this storyline, and I really love sort of, where we're at right now with this entire story. We've still got a month to build towards it, but I like where we're at with these two, and I think this was sort of the big point to sort of show, okay, why did Lashley be the one to challenge? Why is it not the other way around after Bryan won King of the Ring? But Lashley wants to get the respect, and he thinks the only way he can do it is against Daniel Bryan because he's been the one that's had this just huge, memorable championship reign, and so that's what Lashley wants. So great segment here. Good stuff from these two, and that will wrap up this edition of Raw. I like the closing segment. As I said, I don't think our overall rating is going to be great. 74, so not bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it was helped by several of these big angles that we had. Of course, Edge's promo, Lashley and Bryan. We also had some other stuff in there with Austin. Like I said, announcing Styles, Big E, Ray comes back. So that helped a bit. Lose some popularity, gain some popularity. It's just another show, right? But I really like this. I thought we had some, good balance, bringing RVD back for the open challenge, that kind of stuff. So we get two people, Sheamus, Ricochet, both advancing to Money in the Bank. So good development here. And like I said, we did have to push back the match that we had in store to find out Bayley and Sasha's opponent. But at least we bring Rhea Ripley back right off the bat to kind of build that up. So I think that turned out okay, even though, like I said, a technical issue on my part. But let's see what we need to address before we wrap up this episode. Well, let's see if there's anything we need to look at here. Raw, great, of course. Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman has been stirring stuff up we know as AJ Styles. But apparently he wins the web poll on the forums that he is the best manager in the world. I guess it's kind of hard to disagree with that. So hopefully that doesn't cause him to stir up anything with anyone else. Let's see what we have here to look at. Sunil Singh development contract, so we will look at that. He's in NXT, so we will kind of go through that, and I will leave that in there to go through once we look at that. And then drug tests, of course, as always. Raw 3.35. I think our Raw rating actually have gone down quite a bit when I think about it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But I'm very curious actually to look at it. Let's see. What are we looking for? We're looking for broadcasters. Let's look at this real quick. I assume, let's see, USA Network. We need to find that. I think it'll show it on there. I'm trying to remember actually how this works. Rating center, right? Okay, there we go. Now we look at sort of the ratings, and let's see if we can look at what our ratings have been. Not that it matters. We know we're in pretty good shape. So let's see. All-time best by viewership. Let's see. So we can kind of see here what our viewership has been for all of our shows that we've done to this point. We throw King of the Ring out because I think that was on. I think we have it as the network as our pay-per-view provider or whatever it is. So clearly SmackDown is doing very well because it's on Fox. Raw is on USA Network. But if we look at it here, let's see, this would have been this edition. So actually not too bad. 3.1, pretty good. It's been one of our best, actually, when we look at it from that standpoint. So I thought it was one of our worst, but it's actually not too bad. Kind of in the middle range there. So that's our ratings. As we see, I mean, we're doing pretty well overall, just in terms of, like, we can look at our show rating too and see that, we had really our first ones we did. Our first 2 shows were terrible, but since then, we've been pretty steady with where things are at, and then our viewership has also been pretty steady also. So, yeah, those are just a couple things we could look at there. But then that's probably about it, I guess, as we, again, now we are officially on the road to Great American Bash. As we have SmackDown coming up next, and that will lead into Great American Bash. So that's the next stuff we have coming up. For Raw, now for Raw, it's after Great American Bash. We still got another 4 weeks to be able to build up our SummerSlam card. So I think Raw's in a pretty good spot right now. And I think, as you'll see, SmackDown's going to be also, once we come out of Great American Bash. I think we just, we had a pay-per-view and we had to throw some things together pretty quickly for SmackDown. But I think you'll see that we're going to have actually some pretty good stuff coming out of SmackDown, and some big angles on both. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, as always, be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And as I always say, I love the feedback. I really appreciate all of it thus far. You guys have been great. And this continues to be just a fun series to do. So be sure to share that. Anyone else that plays TEW and loves this kind of stuff, share it with them. That way we can have more people kind of join in on the fun here. So coming up next will be SmackDown. It will be the go-home edition of SmackDown for Great American Bash. So we've got some big stuff planned for the pay-per-view, so you'll want to check that one out. So coming up on the next edition, the next video will be our go-home SmackDown for Great American Bash.